Have you ever pondered over the vast expanse of the British Empire, which once held sway over a quarter of the world's population? Our story starts in the year 1600. The British Empire's roots can be traced back to a group of merchants who established the East India Company. This was a time when the allure of exotic spices, luxurious fabrics, and precious metals sparked a fierce competition amongst European powers. Britain, eager to stake its claim, launched the East India Company, setting the stage for an era of colonization that would span centuries. The East India Company wasn't just a commercial venture, it was a strategic move by Britain to establish a foothold in the Indian subcontinent. The company was granted the right to wage war, negotiate treaties, and govern territories. It essentially functioned as an arm of the British government, paving the way for colonization. So, what drove this desire for colonization? The answer lies in the pursuit of wealth and power. New trade routes were the highways of wealth during this period. They facilitated the flow of goods, opening up new markets and bringing in immense profits. The British Empire, with its sophisticated navy, was well positioned to take advantage of these opportunities. But it wasn't just about trade. The quest for resources was another significant factor. The colonies were rich in raw materials, from the cotton fields of India to the gold mines of South Africa. These resources fueled the Industrial Revolution back home in Britain, transforming it into the world's leading industrial power. As the 17th century rolled on, the British Empire began to extend its reach. It was a time of exploration, adventure, and ambition, but it was also a time of conflict, exploitation, and upheaval. This was the dawn of the British Empire, a force that would come to shape the world in ways we still feel today. As the 17th century rolled on, the British Empire started to leave its footprints in various parts of the world. The 18th century marked a significant expansion phase for the British Empire. This was a period of exploration and establishment, a time when Britain's footprint began to spread across the uncharted territories of the world. Major events of this era revolved around the establishment of colonies in North America and the Caribbean. In the early parts of the century, Britain expanded its influence in North America, setting up 13 colonies along the East Coast. These colonies became the foundation stones of what would later evolve into the United States. Similarly, the Caribbean islands emerged as a significant part of the British Empire. The sugarcane plantations in these islands, worked by enslaved Africans, provided a significant boost to Britain's economy. Then came the 7 Years' War, a global conflict that further shaped the course of the British Empire. Fought between 1756 and 1763, it saw Britain and France, along with their respective allies, vying for global dominance. The end of the war marked a decisive victory for Britain, significantly expanding its territories in North America and India. But the expansion of the British Empire was not just a product of military conquests and colonial establishments. It was also closely tied to the Industrial Revolution back home. As Britain transformed from an agrarian economy to an industrial powerhouse, it led to an increased demand for raw materials and markets to sell manufactured goods. This economic shift played a crucial role in driving Britain's colonial expansions. Iron, coal, and textiles powered Britain's factories, and in turn, these factories powered the empire. The steam engine, one of the key inventions of this era, revolutionized transportation and communication, further facilitating Britain's global reach. By the close of the 18th century, the British Empire had grown into a global power. From the icy landscapes of Canada to the tropical islands of the Caribbean, from the bustling cities of North America to the exotic lands of India, the sun was beginning to rise on an empire where it would supposedly never set. The sun never set on the British Empire during the 19th century, a phrase that aptly captures the grandeur and dominance of Britain at the height of its power. This was the era of Pax Britannica, a period of relative peace maintained by the might and reach of the British Empire. From the Americas to the farthest corners of Asia, British influence was felt in every corner of the globe. This was mainly due to the acquisition of new territories in Africa and Asia. The empire was on a quest for resources and markets to fuel its burgeoning industries back home. This expansion wasn't without conflict. Key events like the Opium Wars in China, fought between 1839 and 1860, were stark examples of the empire's determination to impose its economic will. These wars resulted in the cession of Hong Kong to Britain, further extending its global influence. On the African continent, the scramble for Africa saw the British Empire, alongside other European powers, partition the region into colonies. This scramble, which lasted from 1881 to 1914, resulted in Britain gaining control of vast territories, including modern-day Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya. Meanwhile, in South Asia, the British Raj was in full swing. Britain's rule over India from 1858 to 1947 had profound economic, political, and social impacts on the subcontinent. The British introduced Western education, legal procedures, and infrastructure, but also exploited India's resources, leading to widespread discontent and resistance. However, this period of expansion was not without its consequences. The impact of colonization on native populations was profound and often detrimental. Indigenous cultures were suppressed, resources were exploited, and local economies were manipulated to serve British interests. The 19th century marked the zenith of the British Empire, but it also sowed the seeds of its decline. As the century drew to a close, the first murmurs of resistance began to echo in the colonies, setting the stage for the eventual fall of the empire. The 20th century was a period of turbulence and transformation for the British Empire. The two world wars of this era posed significant challenges to the empire. The First World War strained the empire's resources, with manpower, materials, and morale stretched thin across the globe. The Second World War dealt an even more significant blow, leaving Britain economically exhausted and politically isolated. In tandem with the tribulations of war, the rise of nationalism in colonized countries further accelerated the decline of the British Empire. Colonized peoples across the globe began to question and resist the authority of the empire. This sentiment was particularly potent in India, where the struggle for independence was led by figures such as Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. Their nonviolent resistance movement gained international attention and ultimately led to India's independence in 1947, marking a significant turning point in the process of decolonization. The Suez Crisis of 1956 was another pivotal event. Britain's failed attempt to regain control of the Suez Canal from Egypt was a stark demonstration of its diminished global standing. The crisis damaged Britain's reputation and signaled a shift in the balance of global power. The process of decolonization continued throughout the second half of the 20th century. One by one, colonies gained independence, often after long and bitter struggles. The handover of Hong Kong to China in 1997 marked the end of British colonial rule in Asia and was a symbolic end to the British Empire itself. In the wake of decolonization, the British Empire underwent a transformation. It evolved into the Commonwealth of Nations, a voluntary association of 54 independent countries, most of which were former territories of the British Empire. By the end of the 20th century, the once mighty British Empire had transformed into the Commonwealth of Nations. The British Empire, once the most powerful entity in the world, has left an indelible mark on history. This monumental entity has shaped the world in more ways than we can comprehend. Its legacy, like its history, is a complex tapestry of both luminous achievements and dark controversies, woven together over centuries. In the realm of language and culture, the impact of the empire is undeniable. English, once confined to a small island in the North Atlantic, has now become a global language, a tool of communication for billions. This linguistic inheritance is a testament to the empire's extensive reach. It has also carried with it a rich cultural exchange. Literature, sports, and even cuisine have been shared and transformed across continents. Yet this cultural and linguistic legacy is not without its critics. The spread of English and Western culture has often come at the expense of local languages and traditions. In many of the empire's former colonies, indigenous cultures were suppressed, their languages marginalized, their histories rewritten. Politically, the British Empire has left a deeply etched blueprint. The Westminster model of parliamentary democracy, the common law system, and administrative structures have been adopted by many former colonies. Yet again, this legacy is not without its controversies. Arbitrary borders drawn by the empire have sparked conflicts, while the economic structures put in place have often perpetuated inequality. The influence of the British Empire is not confined to the past. It continues to shape global institutions, international relations, and our collective consciousness. Its legacy is a complex blend of positive and negative impacts, a subject of constant debate and reinterpretation. The empire's story, from its emergence to its decline, is a narrative of power, ambition, and human resilience. It's a story that has shaped our world, for better and for worse. The legacy of the British Empire continues to shape our world today, evoking a complex blend of admiration, resentment, and curiosity.